You are now listening to the More Than an Admin podcast with Mallory Rothstein. For more, visit morethananadmin.com. And if you haven't already, make sure you go subscribe to this podcast. Thank you and enjoy this episode. What's up, More Than an Admin community? Hope y'all are doing well. Today is an episode for all the sports fans out there, especially basketball fans. If you don't already know, I'm a huge basketball fan. I often watch the NBA and recently even got into watching the WNBA, like many other people, because of Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. I usually watch college basketball during March Madness because I love to see the drive of college athletes making a name for themselves, especially all those underdogs. This is why I was recently thinking about Dan Hurley and the big coaching decision he made just a few months ago. Then I was thinking about what we as administrative professionals can take away from his decision to apply to our own careers. If you don't know who Dan Hurley is, that's okay. I'm here to fill you in on that and everything else. Dan Hurley is the head coach for the men's basketball team at the University of Connecticut, also known as UCONN. He's led this team to back-to-back NCAA March Madness championships in the last 2 years. So the bottom line is he's one of the best coaches out there right now. That's why in the offseason, he had been offered an opportunity to coach the Los Angeles Lakers, which if you don't know is an NBA team who has arguably the best player in the world, LeBron James, on it. Now, I'm a huge Steph Curry fan, so I'd argue he's the best player out there, but that's a debate for another time. To most people in the sports world, Dan Hurley was given the biggest dream opportunity since the Lakers are one of the most popular sports franchises in the world. But Dan decided that he was going to turn it down to stay at UConn to go for a three-peat. Now, why does this matter to the More Than an Admin community? Let's now dive into 3 lessons that you can apply to navigating your own careers. The first lesson is not every opportunity is going to be the right opportunity for you. The Lakers might have been the dream role for anyone else, but to Dan, it clearly wasn't enough for him to leave UConn for it. I love and respect that he didn't just take the sexier, bigger brand name opportunity because others would have. He chose to do what was best for him and his family. You can apply this to your own career by remembering that you might have job opportunities one day to work for a top company or support a big celebrity, but make sure that's really what you want and what's best for you and your family. Don't just say yes because it might make you look cool to everyone else, or everyone else is telling you that you'd be crazy not to take it. There have been many times when I met with assistants who want to work for Google because of the brand name or greater compensation, but when I broke down everything that comes with working at Google, what comes with being an administrative business partner, sometimes it wasn't what someone really wanted or what was best for them then. Obviously, other times it could have been, but use discernment and don't be blinded by the glitz and glam before you commit to anything. In our last podcast episode, I spoke about 3 questions you can ask yourself before applying to Google or any large tech company. So if you haven't listened to that, I highly recommend it if you ever want to consider working for a large tech company or really any large company that is well known in any industry. Now, the second lesson is you shouldn't always jump ship, even if you have another great opportunity in front of you. What I mean by this is to be careful in continually jumping ship to find the perfect role or the highest compensation package, because there's really no such thing as a perfect job with 0 challenges, and sometimes even more money can't buy happiness, especially if the role isn't right or the leaders you support are going to be a big problem or headache. We all know that one person, might even be yourself, who is always continually jumping from relationship to relationship, avoiding commitment because they're always seeking perfection or a thrill, that they lost out on building something great with a past amazing person. Sometimes it is actually better to stay put and be able to build with certain leaders or a company versus finding another opportunity where everything might be established. Yet the scope might actually be smaller, it might be harder to gain instant respect from top leadership, or you won't have as much say on already set policies. When I first started working at Google, I accidentally left the LinkedIn feature on where recruiters can know that you're open to opportunities. I got messages from recruiters from a few places, including Facebook, now called Meta, but it wasn't called that at the time, and SoulCycle. One opportunity was to support a VP or SVP at Meta. I can't really remember, but it was definitely higher than my job supporting directors at Google. And the other was to support Melanie Whalen, who was the CEO at SoulCycle at the time. Now, I took the call with Facebook because I was just curious about the role, but I didn't take a call with SoulCycle at all because I didn't want to support a CEO at such a large company again. Some people told me that they thought I should have gone through the whole process with both companies just to see if the pay or role responsibilities would have been worth it. But for me, I'd only been at Google between 6 and 12 months, and I wanted to stay at a company longer than 2 years, which was my initial goal, which is very funny looking back now because that's such a short time period. But in my head, then I couldn't have even imagined staying at a company longer than 2 years. Now, my mentality has obviously changed given I stayed at Google for 7 years. And a big reason is because I do think there is something special about staying at a company long enough to really have an impact, not solely on the leaders or team you support, but also across the rest of the company too, which can't often happen overnight or within just a year or two. You also don't know what could happen if you jump ship, which in my case, had I gone to Meta, right after would have been when Zuck and Sheryl Sandberg had to do the Senate hearings, so I'm sure it was a crazy time then. And then also Melanie Whalen eventually stepped down as CEO. Always remember you don't know what could happen when you jump ship, especially because our role as an admin is often tied to the leader or leaders we support. You could be leaving a good place for maybe a better opportunity, yet potentially more risky. You just never know, so make sure you are at full peace when you make the call to leave anywhere. Of course, it is totally okay to jump ship, and you definitely should if that's what you feel God is leading you to do. But the lesson here is that Dan didn't just jump ship at the next opportunity he was offered, but rather decided to stay and do the near impossible by trying to win a back to back to back championship. Mark Manson once said something in a blog along the lines of choosing to pick the pain or problems you want in life instead of focusing on only the potential good. And what he meant was that you can't avoid challenges, but if you can identify potential ones, then it can make your decision process a lot easier. For example, every company and job are going to have problems and challenges. So make sure you're jumping ship for those specific challenges that you're okay with having in your life. So instead of maybe working as a virtual assistant where your problems are inconsistent salary or loneliness for not being part of an actual team, you decide to join a company like Google where the problems might be now that you're overwhelmed with the amount of people you have to interact with on a daily basis. Or maybe your job responsibilities have doubled with limited flexibility, which comes with the higher salary. Make sure if you jump ship, you really think not only about the good that might come with it, but also the new challenges and pain points so you can either plan appropriately or decide where you are. And that's something that's very important, again, with potentially wanting to be a virtual assistant or working at an established company is thinking about the challenges that come with each, not just the potential good things that come with each of those opportunities. All right. The third lesson is that you will always have leverage when you are a kind, non dramatic person who continually produces impact. Dan Hurley is known to be a fun, kind guy who is focused on winning. He's not only been focused on winning, but also has proven to win through those back to back championships, which equals producing real impact. The takeaway is that you should always be someone who is easy to work with and has a mindset that is showcasing your impact because it will almost always give you leverage, whether that's for a raise, flexibility, and potentially going remote or hybrid one day, getting a promotion, or like what happened to Dan Hurley, which is it will open you up to greater opportunities outside of your current role or company. Maybe as an admin, that's a paid speaking opportunity or being offered a better role with a higher pay somewhere else, like again, what happened to Dan Hurley. There are unfortunately times when I've met admins who might mean well, but are just so difficult to work with or have such a negative attitude towards life that it makes it hard for someone like me to want to be around them. Make sure you think about the energy you're putting out in the world and not only what you're doing, but how you're doing it. With Dan Hurley, it's been known that players want to play not just for UConn, but specifically him as a coach and human being. I personally will take working with another admin who might be average at scheduling but has the best attitude rather than someone who is the best scheduler but makes everyone else around them feel uneasy and anxious. You can always teach someone how to be better at their job, but you can't always teach someone how to be a better person. Leaders also take notice of this and want to work with admins who others respect and get along with, especially those who don't bring drama to them all the time. And we know those who are dramatic and always causing problems, and you don't want to be that person. Also, think about ways you can showcase that you are undeniably great through your impact. That if they let you go one day, it wouldn't just be a loss to your leaders, but also your entire team and company. Sometimes you have to get creative with this. Maybe it's focusing on the entire admin community, hosting certain trainings or a speaker series for everyone, or maybe it's intentionally going to different industry events to network not only for yourself, but also your leaders so that you can help them land a big client or open the door for them to have a speaking opportunity. Don't underestimate the impact you can have and continually seek out opportunities to produce undeniably great impact at various levels that will give you the leverage not only at your company, but also in the marketplace. Think about how Dan Hurley was being offered a lucrative contract for a highly sought out opportunity with the Lakers, which was outside of his school and at a tier above league. What ended up happening was that UConn decided to offer him a lucrative new contract of their own at $50 million for 6 years. Wouldn't that be nice if admins had that kind of contract? I mean, all of us can dream that one day we will see that happen. And one day I really want to get into a podcast episode on how you can leverage your personal brand for outside opportunities, but also how you can use your personal brand and outside opportunities to influence opportunities at the place that you're currently working at for things like compensation, promotions, different roles and responsibilities, etc. The most important step in all of this, though, is about just simply, again, being a kind person who is easy to work with, who focuses on providing the greatest value for those you support, because then you will have the greatest leverage and you will give yourself the best opportunity to not be laid off. I hope in this episode you took away at least one nugget of information that can help you navigate your own career. Shout out to Dan Hurley for sparking all of these lessons for us to learn from. And go Huskies! A fun fact about me is that when I played basketball in middle school, I was a huge Diana Taurasi fan. And my original dream was to play college basketball for UConn. So the Huskies will always have a special place in my heart. Anyway, just to remind you of the 3 lessons we talked about. 1, not every opportunity is going to be the right opportunity for you. 2, you shouldn't always jump ship, even if another great opportunity is in front of you. 3, you will always have leverage when you are a kind, non-dramatic person who continually produces impact. Appreciate y'all for listening. Have a great rest of your day and talk soon again. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the More Than an Admin podcast. Make sure you have subscribed, and if you're feeling a little generous, please also leave a review because we love your feedback. And remember to share this podcast with those around you. If you're looking for more content, check out morethananadmin.com, our YouTube channel, or follow us at More Than an Admin on all platforms. If you're looking to connect directly with me, you can find me at Mallory is More on all platforms or search for me on LinkedIn. Let's continue together to influence how the world views administrative professionals and help admins embrace all aspects of their identity to become their best selves. Remember, you are more than your job title, and the best is still yet to come. I'll talk with you soon.